Welcome back to Domestic Dad, cleaning up the mess. So, where have I been for a couple weeks? Oh, man, where do I start? Before I left, I did the Steel Report on KWWL. You can check that episode out on kwwl.com if you want to learn more about me or the project. After that, I took a vacation. I just needed it to celebrate Father's Day and just spend time with family. It was awesome. I highly recommend taking a vacation to unplug and shut off your email and just shut it down for a little bit. You really need to do that. Somebody once told me a story, or the story, of two lumberjacks. They were known for their hard work and dedication. And one day they decided to have a competition to see who could chop down more trees in a single day. Both were confident in their abilities and set out to prove who was the best. At sunrise, both lumberjacks began chopping. The first one, he worked relentlessly, taking only a few brief pauses to catch his breath, believing that the more he chopped, the more trees would fall. His determination being evident, he didn't want to waste any time. The other took a different approach. He chopped trees with great energy, but he took a 10-minute break every hour. And during those breaks, he'd disappear into the woods. And the first one assumed that the second one was just resting and wasting time, which made him more determined to keep working without stopping. And as the day went on, the first one grew more and more exhausted. His swings became slower, less effective, while the second one maintained his steady pace throughout the day. And by evening, when the competition ended, the first one was surprised to see that the second one had chopped down significantly more trees. Confused and frustrated, he approached the second one and said, "How could you have chopped more trees than me? You took breaks every hour while I worked nonstop." And the second one smiled and he said, "Yeah, I took breaks every hour. But during those breaks, I was sharpening my axe." You guys, that story highlights the importance of taking time to rest and rejuvenate and the necessity of continuously improving your skills. It should serve as a reminder that working smarter, not just harder, often leads to better results. So if you get a chance to take a vacation, turn off your phone and spend some time with the people that you love, metaphorically, you're sharpening your axe, and that will greatly improve your regular life. If I see you working yourself into burnout and I yell at you, "Don't be the first lumberjack," now you'll know what it means. So, yeah. Are you guys ready? Grab a mop, because this week we're cleaning up the mess. Has life gotten off track? Are you looking for some inspiration to be a better dad? People say all the time, "I'd die for my kids." Okay. But would you live for them? Actually live? Get yourself healthy? Make better choices? Eliminate distractions? Would you lead them more intentionally? Would you get sober? Take better care of yourself, physically and mentally. You'd only have to die once. Your kids don't need you to die for them. They need you to live. Have you thought about getting sober, but you just didn't know where to start? If so, welcome to the Domestic Dad Podcast, your go-to destination for candid discussions on journeys into sobriety, parenting, and personal growth. I'm Nick Barnett, founder of the Domestic Dad Project. I've been a dad since I was 18 years old. I'm also a trauma survivor, an alcoholic, divorced, happily remarried, hardworking, humbled by life, domestic dad. On this podcast, you'll find interviews with people who have walked that path, including myself, coaches, mentors, and pastors who can help guide you on your journey. You're going to need resources and inspiration. You can find that here. This is the community for you to lean into, so you can start living life as a domestic dad. So let's grab a mop and start cleaning up the mess. What's up, domestic dads? I've been MIA for a couple weeks, and I know some of you might be wondering if I fell off the wagon during my summer vacation. Spoiler alert, I did not. For those of you who don't follow me on Facebook or Instagram or any of the other social medias, you're probably justified in thinking that. But I've been producing episodes for Domestic Dad, cleaning up the mess, every single week since we started, even though my original plan was to release new content every couple of weeks. When I began this journey, I got ambitious. Seeing the thousands of you tuning in every week really got me fired up. So I kept pushing myself, conducting interviews and creating content nonstop. It's been an incredible ride, but I've realized I've been pouring myself into this project to the point of burnout. As somebody deeply committed to sobriety and recovery, I also recognize that replacing one addiction with another is a common pitfall. So I truly hope everyone continues to listen, but I've had to make the tough decision to downshift. I'm a father to 3 with many responsibilities, and those responsibilities keep growing. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit. But my top priority is my loving wife and children, and I owe it to them to be present and attentive. I need to ensure I'm not neglecting my primary responsibilities. So moving forward, we're transitioning to a bi-weekly schedule. We'll have a new episode every 2 weeks. So thank you for understanding and continuing to listen and support this podcast. It truly does mean the world to me. This week, we're going to do our very first episode of Domestic Dad Dialogue. So if you have any questions for me, like you have problems or you have challenges in your life and you just want to engage with me, but you don't want to share your email, you want to do it anonymously, on domesticdadproject.com, there's a link at the top of the page that says podcast. And if you click on that link, it'll take you to a submission form where you can send me any questions anonymously. This week, I got an email from a gentleman named Eric, and this was what he wrote. Nick, I'm a 44-year-old husband and father of 2. I've listened to the podcast and I really appreciate the advice and support you provide people who are listening. I'm reaching out because I need help getting my life on track. I work from home, and over time, I've developed a habit of drinking throughout the day. This has impacted my ability to work and be present and attentive when my kids get home from school. I miss out on practices, family dinners, and I feel a sense of guilt for not giving my kids the attention that they deserve. This has started to strain my relationship with my wife. I feel combative over conversations that we have because emotions flare up. There is a distance growing between us, and she ignores me. I'm worried that I've lost her heart. To make things worse, I find myself spending too much time scrolling on TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. Anytime my phone beeps from Snapchat, my family rolls their eyes at me. This only adds to my feelings of neglect and disconnection. I know I need to change, but I'm struggling to figure out where to start and how to maintain those changes. I want to be a better father and husband. I don't want to lose my family. Any advice or strategies you could provide would be greatly appreciated. Thanks for taking the time to read my email. I look forward to your response and any advice that you can offer. Regards, Eric. Brother, first of all, thank you for having the courage to share your story with us. Admitting you're struggling and asking for help is a huge step, and I just want you to know that you're not alone in that journey. I can hear the love that you have for your family in every single word that you wrote. You're dealing with a lot, and those feelings of guilt and shame are tough. But reaching out shows just how much you care about being a better father and a husband. So let's break this down together. First, addressing your drinking during the work hours is going to be crucial. 1, you don't want to lose your job. 2, recognizing the impact that it's having on your life and considering seeking some help, whether it's joining a support group or seeing a counselor. It's important to create clear boundaries in your life with alcohol. Replace the drinking with healthier habits. When I would drink at home, a lot of times it was because I was bored or seeking an escape. And if I could give you one thing that I've learned about managing my addiction, it's this: the mind is the scene of the crime. I say that to tell you that what happens in your mind happens before you actually do it. Okay? So managing what happens in your brain is the best tool that you will ever develop. As you think about drinking and why you're going to do it, put a bodyguard inside your head and make sure that he's doing his job to get rid of those thoughts of, oh, I'm bored, might as well have a drink. The other thing is to just get busy doing something else. I know it sounds so silly, but just go for a quick walk. When you feel triggered to drink at home, You cannot allow that to happen during work hours. And I would push you to say, I will not allow that to happen ever, and use this piece of advice as something that you carry with you always. Anytime that you think about drinking, change what's happening. Just go to something else. Go for a quick walk, do a jog, work out, phone a friend, and tell that person, look, man, I'm calling you because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking about drinking and I don't want to. Will you just talk to me for a few minutes? But just get busy doing something different. The other thing that I would recommend is getting a counselor, coach, or somebody that you have a ongoing meeting with. I would even recommend finding a daytime AA meeting that you can go to in the middle of the day, or that you can look forward to take a lunch break and get to during the day to stay on track. One thing that I have learned is that you cannot stay clean on yesterday's shower. So immersing yourself in recovery habits to stay clean is key, and making sure that you do them consistently every day. Next, dude, you got to sit down and have a conversation with your wife about this. And I would encourage you to employ a tactic called speaker listener. This is something that I learned during marriage counseling with my wife. And I'll just go through it real quick. So the speaker listener technique is a structured method for couples to communicate more effectively, particularly during conflicts. It aims to promote understanding and reduce miscommunication by clearly defining roles and rules for both partners during conversations. And this is how it works. Okay, so there's two roles. One's a speaker, one's a listener. The speaker is the person expressing their thoughts and feelings. The listener is the person receiving the message and ensuring they understand it accurately, accurately being key. Here are the rules. Number one, for the speaker, use I statements. Focus on expressing your own feelings and thoughts without blaming or criticizing the listener. For example, I feel upset when. I feel hurt when. I feel let down when. I feel attacked when. 2, be brief. Keep your statements concise and to the point to avoid overwhelming the listener with too much information at once. Number 3, pause regularly. Give the listener a chance to paraphrase what they heard to ensure that they understand it correctly. Okay, now for the listener on the other side of it, number 1, paraphrase. After the speaker pauses, summarize what you heard in your own words to confirm your understanding. For example, what I hear you saying is. Number 2, don't interrupt. Let the speaker finish their point without interjecting or offering your own thoughts. Number 3, focus on understanding. The goal is to understand the speaker's perspective, not to agree or disagree with it. Okay? So those are the rules. Here's the process. Number 1, start the conversation. So the couple decides on a topic to discuss. One person begins as a speaker and the other begins as the listener. Number 2, follow the rules. And then number 3, switch roles. After the speaker feels understood, the roles switch. The listener becomes the speaker and shares their perspective while the original speaker now listens and paraphrases. And here's the benefits. You're going to reduce miscommunication. By paraphrasing, the listener ensures they accurately understand the speaker's message. It fosters empathy. The technique encourages both partners to see things from the other's perspective. That creates a safe space. The structured approach prevents arguments and promotes respectful, calm discussions. And then it improves conflict resolution. So with better understanding and communication, the couple can resolve conflicts more effectively. Here's just an example that I thought up. The speaker says, I feel really overwhelmed with household chores and I need more help. And then the listener would say, what I hear you're saying is that you're feeling overwhelmed with chores and you need more help. Is that right? And then the speaker would say, yeah, exactly. And then the listeners would say, okay, I understand. I can take on more roles to help out. Let's discuss which ones. So by practicing the speaker-listener technique, those couples can improve their communication, strengthen their relationship, and navigate conflicts with greater ease and understanding. And when you guys get good at that, like when you do this enough, you almost enter into it like you kind of give that look, right? Like, okay, we're going to do speaker-listener. And it becomes very evident with your wife that you're doing it, and then to like go back and forth. It's almost kind of like a nice, ping pong with that. And that is seriously one of the best things that I ever learned during my own marriage counseling. And just side note here, I use that technique everywhere in life, outside of my marriage, even to conflict resolve in so many other relationships in my life. So take that for what you will. But yeah, Eric, when you do this and when you have that conversation with your wife, let her know that you want to do speaker listener. Do a little research on it. Make sure that you understand the rules and just do it. By using that tactic, you're going to really strengthen your empathy muscle. And empathy is a superpower when it comes to relationships. You're not going to be stuck on emotions or interjecting or interrupting each other. That's really what causes these arguments, is the emotions flare up during conversations because you get triggered by what the other one says. If you do speaker listener, you're going to get through it a lot better. It's going to feel so weird at first, but the more you do this, the easier it gets. Kind of like going to the gym and lifting weights to build a muscle. So improving your relationship with your wife starts with open and honest communication, sharing your feelings and struggles with her. That's what's going to open her up to say, okay, I understand what you're going through. And you have to make sure that you listen to her perspective as well. The other thing I would do, Eric, is as you get into eliminating alcohol from your workday and potentially eliminating alcohol from your evenings, or at least the time in which that you have conversations with your wife, I would pin down a night of the week that you guys either just take some alone time and segregate yourself from your children and just have some one-on-one, or pin down a date night. You can never, ever stop dating your wife. She has to feel like she is the most important person in your life, because she is. Your kids, they're going to grow up and they're going to move out of the house, hopefully, at some point. They're going to get married. They're going to have kids of their own. They're going to build their own lives. But your wife is your A1 day one, your ride or die, the person who's going to give you everything in their life if you give it back to her. So don't miss on that one. Make sure that you have those conversations with her. Set up a time for just you guys. And when you do that, put your phone on silent, turn it off, leave it in the car. Don't allow your phone to be a distraction in your marriage when you're focusing on your marriage. I know it's fun to share videos and stupid memes and talk about all the stupid crap that your friends are doing, but this is for you guys. Keep it about you guys. Keep the point of the conversation. Once upon a time, I got some really good advice. This person told me that if you can control your words, you can save any relationship. And that's so true. The other thing this person told me was the reason my wife married me was because I was kind to her. Believe it or not, that was one of the core reasons. And if you can continue to be kind to her, you'll keep her heart. Okay, let's talk about being present for our kids. Eric, that is the reason that I do this podcast. What we model for our children, how we communicate with our children, they're going to take a lesson from that and they're going to carry it into the world, and they're going to have conversations the way that you have conversations. So it is absolutely imperative that you do the work to get good at this. One of the things that I would say is set aside time for conversation with your children each and every day. I like to ask my kids, instead of saying, hey, how was school today? Do you know what answer I'm going to get? Yeah. Good. I am so tired of good. Ask open-ended questions. One of the things that I ask all of my kids is, what was the best part about your day today? And I ask them that nearly every day. And every day I get a different answer. And that cultivates a conversation to be had about the best part of their day. Another thing that you could say is, what did you find challenging today? And again, that cultivates a different conversation on the opposite end of the spectrum for you to actually talk about those things. And I promise you'll know when those seeds get planted in your kids, because at some point they're going to start asking you, hey, Dad, what was the best part about your day? Did you find anything challenging today? And I cannot stress this enough. Do not blow them off. Share your own experiences. Opening up about your own day, thoughts, and feelings can make your kids feel comfortable about doing the same thing. For instance, you could say, I had a tough meeting today at work, but I managed to stay calm and find a solution. Have you ever felt that way about something at school? I mean, sharing your own experiences creates such a safe space for your kids to open up. And implementing those tactics can help build stronger connections. It's not about having long, deep conversations every time, but rather about creating an environment where open communication is natural and ongoing. Last thing on social media here. What I've done is on the social media apps that I do keep on my phone, I've gone into the settings function like in my iPhone, and I've turned off notifications for Facebook. I've turned off when I have Instagram on my phone, when I have TikTok on my phone, I've turned off the notifications that can come through outside of the app. So I never have red dots on them. I never have incoming notifications that pop up on my home screen. Never have that stuff. And I've intentionally turned those things off. And I think that's a really good idea for limiting what can get through the filter. When it comes to social media, turn off notifications, remove the apps that are the most addictive for you from your phone entirely, and then set specific times for checking your accounts and stick to those limits. Another thing to try with social media or video games or whatever is pulling you away from what's most important in your life is a detox period. With my 12-year-old son, I mean, it got to a certain point where I wanted to rip my hair out as to how much time and how involuntary it was to go to a video game or go to, technology. So we just did a detox. You just take 2 weeks and you say, I'm done. I'm done with social media apps. I'm done with the video games. I'm going to find other things to do and force myself to do it. Oh, and just a side note on my 12-year-old having to do a technology detox. Halfway through, he's like, Dad, I really want to play Optimus baseball, and hopefully I'll be able to get onto a travel team. Oh my gosh, how awesome is that? The point that I'm trying to make is what you will find is that life doesn't stop because you don't have access to those things. You find other things that will bring you joy. And so often we forget that we have these beautiful, wonderful people in our life. And as fathers, it's our children, it's our wives, it's our family that we can pour into. So, Eric, finally, just remember to be patient with yourself. Change takes time. And it's important to celebrate small victories along the way. You're making a conscious effort to improve. And that's something to be so freaking proud of. Your willingness to make these changes shows just how much you care about your family and your own well-being. It's okay to feel overwhelmed, but know that you're taking the right steps to create a better future for yourself and your loved ones. So keep me updated on your progress. Don't hesitate to reach out if you need further support or guidance. You've got this, Eric, and we all believe in you and your ability to overcome those challenges. So that's it for my first domestic dad dialogue segment. I wanted to share one more email with you guys, and I'm not going to respond to this one. I'm just going to share it as it was written to me. I got it yesterday evening it was Saturday night, after the 4th of July. This person had gone on vacation. He went down to Mexico. I'm just going to read this to you. Okay. So this is remember when I was like, hey, reach out to me and tell me about, how you did it over your summer vacation. How'd you do? I want to know. And this person, bless their heart, reached out. And it goes like this. So it goes, "Dear Nick, I wanted to share my success story with you in the domestic dad community." Awesome. This summer, I faced a significant challenge going on my first vacation sober. I wasn't sure how I would handle it, but with the support and tips from your last podcast, I made it through. My family and I spent a week in Mexico at an all-inclusive resort, a place that used to mean endless cocktails. This time, I knew I had to approach things differently. Before we left, I sat down with my wife and I explained how important it was for me to stay sober. She was incredibly supportive and agreed to help me stay accountable. Once we arrived, I found a local shop that sold non-alcoholic beverages, including some of the non-alcoholic seltzers that you had mentioned in your last podcast. Having these on hand made it easier to feel included without the pressure to drink. We also planned a lot of activities that didn't revolve around alcohol. We went kayaking, we played beach volleyball, and I even tried parasailing for the first time. One of the most challenging moments came our second night. We were sitting at a restaurant and everyone was ordering drinks. I felt a pang of temptation, but I remembered your advice. I took a few deep breaths, reminded myself of the trauma alcohol had caused in my life, and I ordered a mocktail. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Another test came when I was alone in our hotel room one afternoon. I was unpacking and I found a little bottle of vodka in the minibar. My family was at the pool, and for a moment, the temptation to take a chug when no one was looking was overwhelming. I held the bottle in my hand, feeling the weight of my past struggles. I thought about the journey I had been on, how hard it was to get to this point, how I had almost lost my life. I remembered the nights I spent in the hospital, shaking and sick, thinking about how my kids almost lost their father. With a deep breath, I put the bottle back and I stepped out onto the balcony, letting the fresh sea breeze clear my mind. Throughout the week, I stayed connected with my sober community. I have the I Am Sober app. I checked in regularly and shared my progress. Knowing I had a network of support was crucial. I also kept a journal, noting my feelings and any triggers I had encountered. This helped me stay mindful and focused on my goal. At the end of the vacation, I felt an overwhelming sense of pride. Not only had I enjoyed a fantastic time with my family, but I had also proven to myself that I could stay sober in a challenging environment. It was a huge accomplishment, and it has strengthened my resolve to stay on this path. So thank you for the invaluable advice and support through your podcast. Your work is making a real difference in my life. Nate. So big thank you to Eric for writing in. Hopefully there's some good stuff for you to follow up on there. And Nate, thank you so much. And congratulations for doing it, man. Like, that is a huge, huge accomplishment. So everybody else, let's grab a mop and keep cleaning up the mess. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, I want to thank you with all my heart. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you did, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It really helps us out. If you have questions about getting sober, parenting, or personal growth, email Nick at domesticdadproject.com with any questions about cleaning up the messes you've made. And if your question is discussion worthy, we'll feature it in an upcoming episode. Don't forget, you can watch any of these videos uncut and unedited, filmed in my studio from our YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for Domestic Dad Project. Also, please follow us on Facebook or share this episode on your social media. You can also join our community by grabbing some merch. It means the world to me to know that this podcast is making a difference in someone's life. And if this episode inspired you to get sober or simply become a better version of yourself, you can claim your free 60-minute coaching session by visiting www.domesticdadproject.com. Let's continue supporting each other to break the stigma around dads reaching out for help, to get our lives on track while navigating the obstacles of fatherhood. Until next time, keep cleaning up the mess.